Some of these are giftings.
Mm-hmm.
But the enemy uses that
when they've been taught that they're supposed to have it all together. You're supposed to be strong. You're supposed to know it all. You're supposed to this, and this. And to have somebody actually point it out, they can't handle that.
There's a real fear because the majority of therapists and those in the therapy are white.
What's up, beautiful people? It's Charity S. Brown, aka God's Princess, and I'm back with another video. So today we will be discussing the topic of Jesus and therapy and basically balancing the two. And today I have two people with me who went to school for psychology, who are believers. And yeah, we're just gonna have the discussion. So, did you guys want to introduce yourselves first? I don't know who want to go first.
Hey y'all, I'm Wendy Geraldo.
Okay. What do you do?
I'm a counselor here at Center for Manifestation, a part of the deliverance team.
Alright. She went to school for psychology.
I did 4 years of psychology at St. Leo. I also got my bachelor's and master's in psychology at Manifest Theological Institute.
Did you go for Christian psychology?
Christian psychology at Manifest, and then regular psychology at St. Leo.
Yes, hi, my name is Chima Lubin, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I have a private practice in Bradenton, Florida, and I help just teens and families. I do that handle or deal with trauma, and so I do individual, family, and counseling, like group counseling for teen girls as well.
That's something that you do right now, but that's not something that you necessarily do outside of church.
Not outside of church.
Okay, cool. Alright, so I mean, I did.
I'm part of deliverance teams too as well.
They're both part of deliverance. See, now I got another question. But okay, cool. So I did want to kind of start with your testimony because I saw like how you shared it on your Facebook and stuff. Like, so can you kind of give us like your background and like stuff like that?
Okay, gotcha. So my background as far as like.
So your post, like how you talked about how you had to go through a journey of like your mental health and like, coming into Christ and things like that.
Yeah. So I did grow up in foster care, but before then, I had a very kind of violent environment. I lived in a very violent environment where it's very abusive emotionally, physically, and sexually. And so eventually I had to go into foster care, and I was there for several years until I aged out. And so I went into different group homes, psychiatric facilities. I kind of knew what I knew what they wanted, so I behaved myself, and they kind of let me out. Then I went back in. It was just a lot going on. I was diagnosed with schizophrenia and all of these types of mental health diagnoses and medication that really didn't help. No, it didn't help. I wasn't treated right. I wasn't treated for the specific mental health diagnosis. I needed something more. Just knock me out at night. It just didn't really.
Alright, and what's schizophrenia again? Like, what is that again?
So it's like this kind of delusion, not in touch with reality kind of thing. Yeah.
Did you have a background with like something like that? Were you diagnosed?
No, I wasn't diagnosed, but I did deal with depression. Yeah.
Okay. Alright, cool. Alright, so I'm gonna jump into some questions and then we're just gonna flow. So first question is like, how do you know you need therapy? Like as a believer, because obviously like there's different points of views on it. Some people believe Jesus is my therapist. Some people, they think, that you can't go to therapy, or some people they just cope through like the Bible. But like, how do you know like, I need to go get therapy?
That's a great question. If the problems like depression and anxiety is impacting your daily function, then it's a problem. So it looks different for everyone. So where it's impacting your ability to go to work, it's impacting your ability to function and show up in your family. You can't do certain things. You're not getting the right sleep. You are, constantly you're not able to complete the daily function of your day. When it's impacting that, then it becomes an issue. Then okay, maybe I need to see somebody else that can help me.
And sometimes people can be high functioning, dealing with mental health illnesses, so they may not know because they've dealt with it for so long. So sometimes it may take someone on the outside as well to say, hey, you need to get some help because I've noticed your behavior is XYZ and is not normal. So sometimes you can self-identify, and then sometimes you're not able to because you've functioned this way for so long that you think it's normal. Yeah. And then it takes somebody to be like, I think you're really good to go and see a therapist.
Okay. And this can even be in the church.
It definitely can be in the church as a Christian.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And also, is there like a spiritual aspect of that to where you wouldn't need therapy? Like you just need to do something spiritually, like fast or reach Bible?
It could be. To me, how I look at it is kind of like when you go to the doctor, right? Mm-hmm. And therapists, they help you understand that there is an illness. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you don't know that it's an illness because there's a difference between being diagnosed as XYZ and functioning as XYZ. Mm-hmm. You can have symptoms of schizophrenia but not be diagnosed as a schizophrenic because you have to meet certain criteria, what have you. But anyway, so therapists, to me, help you identify that there is a specific illness, what can be done to help remedy that illness, whereas sometimes people in the church, they're not specialized to recognize the illness. They just know that there's something wrong, but they don't know what type of illness it is or how to remedy it. So we kind of sometimes spiritualize it and say, oh, that's demonic. Let me pray and give you this scripture, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But sometimes you need something a little bit deeper. Yeah. You need to identify, this is what's going on. Right. This is what you can do to help. Mm-hmm. And yes, it does still take God because you do need to have faith to believe that you can overcome it. Yeah. But the therapist's speciality, their teaching and training is to help verify what type of illness it is, why you behaving the way that you're behaving. Because I may see it as this, and it may not be that. Because they may have certain symptoms, but it's actually this. And then you're misdiagnosing people and, giving them labels and names. And sometimes that can actually be kind of a little bit more catastrophic because some people begin to act the way that you label them. Yeah. So if I call you a schizophrenic, but you're actually just dealing with bipolar disorder, you may take on the form of a schizophrenic. Because you don't understand. So I think it's very important, very valuable to have a mental health therapist to be able to help pinpoint certain aspects.
That's good. You want to add to that?
Yeah, that's good too. That's why it's important, I think, for as deliverance counselors or ministers that we are educated, that we learn the different things out there so that we can make the appropriate referrals out and be able to provide education. Hey, this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a little bit of depression. I think this is a little bit outside of our scope here. I think you probably need a little bit more than just scripture and prayer. Maybe you need medication, right, to help with the serotonin. Maybe you need some SSRIs, some serotonin reuptakes to help with the release of serotonin levels in your brain that influences your mood. You know what I'm saying? So therapists really, we diagnose, but we don't prescribe. We can be like, hey, what we're doing right now is not working. I think you probably need a little bit more resistance. Maybe we need to see a psychiatrist. I think, yeah.
Well, since you brought it up, so you guys believe in medication? Like, as Christians, like, do you believe sometimes we need to get medication to assist us? Like,
hands down, I'm a believer in Christ, but I'm also a believer that God may use that as a vehicle too, as well, for healing. God can, right? God can move through. I think He moves through doctors. Sometimes we have to go through. If we have cancer, God can deliver me. We could believe God, right? But I have to go through the process of chemotherapy, right? In the midst of that, God can instantly heal me from cancer. I believe that, but for some people, there's a process to that, and it's okay. It's not that you're a failure. It's not that God can't do it. God can most certainly do it with medication too. But it's not it doesn't have to be a dependent. Like they're not dependent on okay, I need to be dependent on now this is going to heal. No. God can use that as a vehicle towards your healing process. Because you have to understand that. I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot. Hopefully, I'm not.
No, you're good.
People have gone through severe trauma, and we have to understand that our bodies carry memories, and the trauma that some people have experienced, it readjusts the brain. I mean, literally, it changed the brain structure. And the mood. So sometimes we just need a little assistance. So that you may be able to be here, all your faculties or the moods, you're not up and fluctuating, to help a little bit with that. And that could look like some, SSRIs, antidepressants, or to help with PTSD and the nightmares and the lack of sleep and all these things. But God is able.
I used to be a radical believer that was diehard, like, no, God can heal, God can deliver. And actually having a conversation with Chima, she really helped me to expand my thought process when it came to that type of thing. And learning that, like she said, it's not created for you to be codependent on it, but it's to help stabilize. Some people really just need to be stabilized. And to balance themselves out, but at the same time, just because you take medication don't mean it's going to work. So you still need some aspect of faith. You have to believe that God is going to help balance you, help bring you back to some type of normality, even in medication. But He didn't design us to be dependent on anything but Him. But you still need, just like what helped me when we had conversation was like, if I hit my hand and I'm in pain, I'm going to take Tylenol because it hurts. It's not that I don't believe I'm going to be healed, but right now in that moment I need immediate release. And so I'm taking Tylenol to give me immediate release from the pain that I'm feeling, but it's not for me to stay on it. So if the pain persists and continues, then I may need to go see a doctor. Like, is there an underlying issue as to why it's continuing on? And maybe I got a fracture, or maybe I got this and that, but it takes a specialist to be able to see deeper. And they're able to diagnose it like, okay, yeah, it's a fracture, and this is what you need to do to heal that fracture. But I still have to have faith that I can be healed.
Right.
And that helped me to see it from a different perspective, because I'm like, God can heal. And God can deliver.
Right. And there's, God can heal, God can deliver. That's so true. And people, I think, as believers, we feel condemned because there's this level of shame that if I do need some additional assistance, that I'm not praying, I'm not doing enough, I'm not fasting enough, maybe I'm not believing hard enough. And I think that's that's cruel. Because there are more factors beyond the spiritual. There's more personality types. There's certain personalities that are more prone to depression. Right? They're more prone, like ones that are very analytical. They think about everything all the time, like digging. Like, it's not even that serious, but they just, the go-getters, the empaths, people that feel and don't know how to balance. Some of these are giftings, but the enemy uses that. Oh, look at you. And that's for help. Oh, you're a failure. Look at that, and condemn. Well, maybe we need to make some adjustment. We need to go to the priest. Lord, how can I balance this? What do I need to help me with my personality type that is prone, like my temperament? So there are several factors that I think, because the enemy, he gets us in our ignorance. They're ignorant, and so that's how condemnation and more deep depression starts influencing our lives. So
that's so good. I'm gonna go here, but we're gonna circle back to ignorance. But so just specifically in the African American community, there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of ignorance. There's a lot, you know, and like we're the main ones. Well, from what I see, I could be wrong. Who don't want to go to therapy? Like, and a lot of times we hide behind our spirituality with like the religious coping that I was telling you guys about. So why do y'all think that is? Do you think that like we use Christianity as a crutch, or do you believe that like they just think they're crazy, or like what do you think it is?
I don't think. Well, I think it could be multiple ways. You know, I think when you look at things from a broader perspective, you tend to understand people on a deeper level. Some people may use religion as a crutch. Some people do it because they truly believe. They truly have that type of faith to believe that God can heal them. You know, if I pray to God, He'll give me the answer. And it has worked for some people. Some people have never had to go to, you know, the hospital for certain things because God literally healed them from X, Y, Z. So they believe that. But some paths are different for some people. And God may direct some people in that direction. It don't mean that He's not a healer. He just may needed them to go in this direction. But anyway, back to your question when it comes to, and I don't want to say it's just African American community. I personally, I really feel like they always try to put so many stigmas on black people. Black people got the worst this. Black people got the highest in this disease and this illness. It's a lot of communities that don't believe in getting therapy. And that's because a lot of us are taught what goes on at home stays at home. We don't discuss our private issues with anybody. Don't trust nobody. Keep people out your business. They gonna talk about you. They gonna label you. They gonna do this, and this. So then you start to put on this persona of having it all together to appease the appearance of man. And I think that's why people don't get therapy, because they don't want to be told you don't have it all together when they've been taught that they're supposed to have it all together. You're supposed to be strong, you're supposed to know it all, you're supposed to this and this, and to have somebody actually point it out, they can't handle that.
That makes so much sense.
That makes so much sense. And you know, when he talked about the religious, you know, people actually believe in God, like literally that's my lifeline. You have to think about slavery, you know. That was saving grace, spirituals. I mean, that was the basis of living and getting through the severe injustice that our people had to go through. And so I think that trickles down to that, right? Like Wendy said, what goes on in the house stays on in the house. They use that to survive. Back slavery. We not fixing to talk to nobody. We can't talk to the white man about certain. Like, we need to keep things for safety, survival. That's our stuff. We as a family, we need to, you know, be able to keep each other alive. And so the weakness, right? Like there's a real fear because majority of therapists and those in the therapy are white. So there's a legitimate, there's a fear. A lot of black people are misdiagnosed as aggressive.
No, seriously.
Right, loud, but that's not the case, right? So that's why we don't go, because we're misdiagnosed, schizophrenic, we're loud, we know all these stigmas. So we're not gonna go to, you don't get me, you don't understand me, you don't understand the complexities of being black in America or just black in the world. So I'm not going to you. So there's no representation of us in the field.
No, that's true.
So we're not going.
That's true.
Because you don't trust that.
You hit the nail on the head. It's all about trust. It's all about trust. And one, because I was going to say something and then it kind of taken me here. But with the misdiagnosis, I know like a lot of times in even school systems, they get paid based off of how many people they have in their school system with the diagnosis. And I remember when I was in school, I had to do research on the school system or what have you, and I learned that a lot of black men are labeled as schizophrenic because they get a higher check for black males that are diagnosed, and they're not even schizophrenic.
Nope.
They have no symptoms of schizophrenia, but because the school systems get paid based off of how many people are in their classrooms with diagnoses, they falsely label these children.
Yes.
And it is African American, unfortunately, because they know that they come from broken homes. Unfortunately, they're not going to have an advocate, someone to stand up for them and fight for them and be like, no. And I remember I have a cousin that they tried to diagnose her son with ADHD. He didn't have ADHD, he was just very hyper. And he was hyper because she never allowed him to go outside to play.
Wow.
And the neighborhood that she lived in, it was kind of volatile or what have you. And so he stayed inside all day. So the boy literally jumping off the sofa. He would stay in the bath for like an hour, 2 hours. He would take like 3-4 baths a day. And they called her and they said, you know, your son has ADHD. And she said, no, he doesn't. She was like, my son just need a whooping. He don't have ADHD.
He needs some run off energy.
But she refused to allow them to label him as that. And he now is in the Navy.
Good for him.
He actually works on submarines. So what they tried to categorize as behavioral was actually his DNA. The man loved water.
Right. You know.
He loves
He
water.
just like water.
Exactly. He just like water. So if you don't have a parent that has knowledge or understanding as to who their child is and know that they can speak up for their children, a lot of them don't know that they can speak up.
Yep.
And so they trust what the educators are saying and they don't challenge it. And then you have these children that are getting checks and being labeled with these diagnoses.
And some of the mothers, they are dependent on those checks. They're like, I'm gonna label, I accept the label because I'm going to be getting these SSI checks. You know?
Yeah, no, seriously.
Yeah, and they try to do that to my son. They try to I'm like, my son is nowhere near, you mess with the wrong person. My son is nowhere near ADHD, please.
Right.
No ma'am, we're not doing this.
Okay, so that takes me to the next question, like based off what she said, like how can like just we as people like become less ignorant, you know, because sometimes like we just don't know, you know, like I you know, for a certain amount of time, I don't know, I just didn't care about a lot of things. And I talked to Miss Crystal and she told me I just lack empathy. You know, I'm thinking I got issues because I was dead inside, you know, but I just didn't know empathy was a thing, you know. So how can we become more educated in those areas?
In the area of mental health?
Yeah.
Or just knowing your...
Just knowing if you need help, knowing like that this isn't ADHD. Like
platforms like this helps bring awareness. There are
Mm-hmm.
other, like I know Chima, there's Cassandra Merritt, she's a mental health therapist. She does seminars. There are mental health therapists that does seminars and go and do teachings and so on and so forth. And so I think making yourself aware, educating yourself, so having these types of platforms I think brings more of an awareness that these type of issues do go on.
Absolutely. And I was just thinking something about the question earlier, that you don't necessarily have to have a problem to go to therapy. Right, we go to doctors to get a check-in, right? And I know, like, I just want to do my yearly checkup, you know, just make sure everything is in alignment, you know, there's nothing growing. You could still, hey, I just want to check in. I'm going through a transition. I may be going to the new job. I just want to, you know, check in with the therapist to see how I can maneuver or how I'm feeling about it. So you don't necessarily have to have an issue per se to go to therapy. You can just deeper self-exploration, you know, knowing yourself, and kind of, I think it's a great, just a checkup.
You said you have mentor, so even having mentors, someone on the outside that can notice change, like Apostle, he's available. People set up monthly meetings or bi-monthly meetings or whatever, just to say, hey, this is what's going on in my life, and you know, just giving you a heads up. And he has the vantage point to be able to see, okay, I noticed that your behavior is a little bit different or whatever. So having somebody in close proximity to you that you can trust, I think is very valuable too.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so what are some things that people think is normal, but it's really just a coping mechanism? Like, I'm gonna just put myself out there. I smoke weed. I thought I was smoking just to smoke, but like I realized it was a lot deeper than that. Like especially with like just navigating through like what faith like people will say like faith over feelings, so I thought that meant like to ignore how I feel and to disbelieve God. But I'm still stressed out low key, so I'm smoking a lot of weed. So it's like I'm like, y'all said like not to have feelings, and I'm not doing it, but I'm still stressed out. Like how do I process how I feel right now?
I have faith.
Listen, you also telling me I can't smoke, so what am I supposed to do here? You know, so
I think a lot of we suppress a lot of the things that we see, like cancer and diabetes and all these physical ailments, is from suppression of emotions.
Wow.
Us not having this space. It's okay to have faith, but it's okay to acknowledge that, hey, I'm feeling stress. Listen, stress is not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, it's the pattern of stress. So, so stress is the pattern of stress that can be destructive. So if stress is normal stress, going to like your job, a new job, or from middle school to high school, or engaging in a new space or new place, that's, there comes stresses with that. It builds resilience. But if there's stress that is unpredictable, constant like trauma, unpredictable stuff, constant kind of thing, then now that's a different type of stress. It can be very destructive. But it's okay to express that God gave us emotion. We have emotions for a reason. And it's okay to acknowledge, hey, I'm feeling some anxious, anxiety with this, right? God has a prescription, but yeah, I'm feeling this, but it doesn't, they're not facts. We have to understand that feelings are not facts. They don't define our moments, but it's okay to have a space to acknowledge, I'm feeling uneasy, I'm not okay with this, or like, hey, I'm just, it's okay. And I think giving language to that is very helpful.
I totally agree. I think one of the downfalls when it comes to Christianity, religion, is to pretend like you don't have emotions. Jesus had emotions, did he not?
He flipped the tables, boy.
He had emotions.
Garden of Gethsemane.
Exactly. Moses had emotions.
Yeah.
Paul had emotions.
Yeah.
Elijah had emotions. Elisha had emotions. Everybody in the Bible expressed their emotions. Jonah had emotions. He was afraid that the people wouldn't believe him. Moses was frustrated that the people weren't listening to him. You had Elijah, Elisha, I always forget the ones, but he was stressed out because Jezebel wanted to kill him. So people had emotions. And in those emotions, though, they were able to go to God and say, okay, Lord, this is how I'm feeling.
Right.
I don't know what to do with it.
That part.
And then he gave them a solution. And he helped them understand, one, why they felt the way that they felt. Like Jonah, the only reason you care is because you're concerned about what you look like. Do you care more about what your feelings are, the fact that these people repented and now they're not going to have to perish? So he helped identify the reason why. And I think that's why God allows us to, because in our weakness he's strong. So if we never felt anything, then we wouldn't cry out to him for help. We would try to have it all together and think that we were superhuman and we wouldn't need him. So I think that's why God allows us to be in tune.
That's so good, Wendy, because I think we think that Father, our dad is like this neurotic parent.
Right.
Like he only wants us to come to him when things are good.
Yeah.
Like he said, he's the high priest. He's able to. He understands. Even though he's sinned not, but he understands what we are going through. He felt and was tempted with our experience, even though he wasn't. He didn't sin.
We do ourselves a disservice.
I think we do. I think we do ourselves a disservice, and we close ourselves from certain facets of God. Intimacy with God, because David, I love David when he was like the epitome of just an emotional roller coaster for me. Like, hey, I'm depressed, my soul is cast down. That's depression. But my hope is in you, God. Like, there was an intimate, and God called David a friend of God. Like, I think, like this is my friend. This is my, what he called him.
Faithful servant, I think, right?
Or something of an endearment, right? Like, this is my a lover. This is my friend, a friend of God. And so I think we do ourselves injustice, and we clothe ourselves, we hide ourselves, and God wants the very thing that we're hiding And we feel
Yes.
ashamed of. He
Yeah.
wants it because
Yeah.
he wants our heart.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think unfortunately with religion and Christians, they deem emotions as a sign of weakness.
Yes.
Because you're supposed to be this firm believer or what have you. Nothing's supposed to phase you or what, but how can you really overcome or be stronger or be better if nothing phased you? That
Right.
means you're basically just flatlining and you just here.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point you have to, come to grips like, okay, so-and-so stepped on my foot and that bothered me. That hurt me, but we're not supposed to identify with it. And I think that they kind of entangle that where we're not supposed to identify with our emotions, but we are to have them. We ain't supposed to let them control us and overpower
Right.
us,
Right.
but they are there.
Right.
You do recognize them.
Yeah.
You do admit and confess our faults. We have them. This is what I'm feeling, what I'm going through. But don't stay there. So how can you overcome?
That's good. And that's so good because really emotions are alarms. Like it's another form of communication. So what is it that my body is what is this emotion trying to communicate? Let's investigate.
Yeah.
Why do I feel angry?
Yeah.
Lord, help me understand what's going on, so that I may identify and go towards a solution,
Exactly.
but not allow it to define.
Exactly.
They're not facts. Because you be dead wrong. Like that person doesn't have an issue, but because you interpret that because of whatever the social cues, you deem it as aggressive, or they don't want to talk to you. They crossed you and didn't speak to you, so you automatically assume that they're mad at you, right? You assume that they're upset, so you become upset. But is that the reality? Why am I upset with that?
Right.
Lord, help me. What is going on? And man, a lot of stuff will be coming up, right? Like a lot of stuff. You dealing with rejection for what? And number one, why are you taking responsibility for their actions? Why are you? Go have a conversation. Hey, are you okay? Check in. And they could be, girl, I'm so sorry. Like that wasn't even the case. Like, but you went on in the head. Like you went down the roller coaster of narrative that oh my God, they got a problem with me. But that wasn't. We see how the emotions can kind of look out, and it's not the facts, right? Okay, so ask Lord, what's going on? Go to the person, have a conversation. These are interpersonal, just conversation, right? But those are things that those are things that are learned in therapy, right? Especially if you had a communication, your communication was based on violence and based on, trauma and all these things. You don't learn these communications because you bring it, like Apostle was talking earlier, sibling rivalry, right? How did you learn manipulation? It was from your parents. You saw your mother and your parents manipulate, so you have this spirit of manipulation. You don't intimidate, you don't intentionally, but you manipulate, you control to get what you need, get the attention you need to get, because you didn't feel you lacked attention, you lack feeling seen and need. So these are the types of things that are in deliverance counseling and therapy. Okay, let me teach you how to slow down. Let me teach you another perspective. There's a pattern here. This is why you feel the way you feel. You feel unseen, you feel unheard, and so and these were your patterns, but this is not helping you for where you are right now as an adult. You're a whole adult right now. Right?
You're a whole adult.
You're a whole adult right now, so we have to have some skills.
Yes. Okay.
Exactly.
We about to wrap up because I know they gotta go. I feel like we need a part 2. If y'all feel like we need a part 2, come in part 2. But I just want to confirm something that you said, basically just being honest with God about how you feel, and He'll begin to show you and unravel why you feel that way and where it comes from and stuff like that. That's something that I recently went through, and just who I thought I wasn't that person at all. The way that I handle situations, the way that I dressed, the way that I spoke, all of it was a coping mechanism. And I realized that through finally allowing myself to feel and just be honest with Him and listening to Him and allowing Him to show me why I react that way, why I carry myself the way I did. So I just want somebody out there to know that it is okay to feel, it is okay to be honest with God. He's your Father, He cares, and that's true. So
sometimes it could be a form of rebellion, believe it or not. If you have a parent at home that say you grow up with a religious parent or whatever, and they try to press you to do this and this, you can kind of almost create this alter identity as a form of rebellion against them, because you don't want to be who they're trying to make you to be, and not even realizing that you're doing it. It could be, subconsciously or what have you. And so you've identified with this, like you said, you didn't even realize what you were doing, but you created an identity. Your mind saw you as this instead of seeing you as who Christ created you to be. And that's what I was talking about earlier when it comes to identity. Sometimes, unfortunately, when people have mental health illnesses, they identify with the illness. They become one with it. And it is very hard for a person to see outside of that, to see, no, this isn't who you are, it's what you're doing. It's two totally different things. You are not a schizophrenic, but you're behaving as this. Your mind can be healed, but a lot of times they have a hard time believing that, because they've taken on the form. Their mind has taken on the form of this being that they've been, told that they were.
That's so true. And from the spiritual aspect, that would be stronghold.
Yeah.
Because strongholds are ideas and concepts and narratives that influence the way someone shows up in the world, what they believe about themselves, and as a result influences the way they show up. So the stronghold that, okay, I'm going to believe that I'm a schizophrenic, so I'm going to act as a schizophrenic my whole life as a schizophrenic, there's some real, okay, it's a different story. That's a lot. That diagnosis.
Last question. I know I said that before, but I just want to include this. Yeah. Okay, so, and you both are prophetic. Okay, can we just find that real quickly? Then I'm asking a question. Then we're done.
What do you mean define?
What does it mean to be prophetic? And I'm asking that because I was gonna ask, does y'all's gift sometimes work whenever y'all are counseling people? Are you able to see?
Oh gosh,
Yes.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to be prophetic? And then the next question.
I mean, basically, it's just being the mouthpiece for God. So a lot of times with prophets, he will show us things visually, audibly, and then we speak it into existence, or we declare. We're basically speaking for him in a sense. But that's the gist of it. Now, when it comes to counseling, yes, because in order for us sometimes to be able to see the depths of what's going on, we have to be able to hear and see what they're dealing with. That's not on the surface. So some of us have the ability to see the hearts of man. And, some of us can hear people's thoughts. Some of us can, operate in a gift of discernment, and we can recognize patterns, we recognize behaviors, and all of these other things. And it definitely comes out in counseling. So I believe deliverance don't just have to happen in church, because God can use the secular arena as well to get his children saved and healed. He can speak to a therapist in the secular arena if they're open and receptive to his voice, to be able to declare what he wants to be declared and say, you don't have to be this way, or this is what I want you to do, and redefine patterns that they have created. And so, yeah, it absolutely, I know I kind of went a long way around it, but absolutely it comes out in counseling.
Yeah, I think a lot of times whenever people think what is my gift, they limit it to pastor, prophetic, and things like that. And your gift can be how you're a therapist and you're prophetic. That's the ultimate combination right there.
Yeah, it's that simple. It's not even a thus say, the Lord told me. It can even just be just a simple question. You don't even have to put the Lord.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
You wouldn't have to put the Lord in it. It's just a simple question. Use a word of knowledge, very specific and discernment to see what the spirit behind the thing.
Yes.
Right? And how God feels about the situation. But you don't even have to say, well, the Lord is showing me. It just comes forward in a simple therapy session conversation.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Simple. Jesus did it with the woman at the well. It was simple. It was simple. It was a counseling session. Hey, go get your 3 husbands.
Oh my God.
He called her out. It was so simple.
He called her out.
Wow.
It was so simple.
Wow. Dang, that is supposed to get. Okay. Alright, guys. Thank you for watching. Seriously, if they want me to do part 2, we might need one, because I do still have a lot of questions. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and be on the lookout for more videos. Thank you guys so much for sharing and being transparent. I appreciate you guys.
Bye. Bye.
So,
Emotion. Okay, go
what
ahead.
made you decide to not go for Christian psychology?
You know what? I didn't even know that that was an option
Oh, okay.
until like, but I'm considering it. I want to be a clinical, I want to go back for clinical psychology.